AITA for making my 7-year-old go to Alcoholics Anonymous? Plus update. I am not op. Original post by you, Miss Lost 1023 in R. Am I the asshole? Trigger warnings. Alcohol. Less than. AITA for making my 7-year-old go to Alcoholics Anonymous? Plus update. Friday, September 2nd, 2022. I, 31F. Have an amazing son, almost 8, who is incredibly sweet, well-mannered and inquisitive, although, I guess most parents think of their kids that way. I quit drinking about 2 months ago and have been adamant about doing the AITA program correctly. 90 meetings in 90 days. Sponsor. Daily readings. Therapy. Etc. I really want to be a good mom and make up for my bad decisions when I was drinking. I never harmed him or put him in danger, but I just wasn't present and am remorseful about my drinking past. The problem is that I'm a single mom who works full-time and I live in a small town. Because it's small, there aren't a lot of options in terms of AITA meetings. So the only one I can really attend is the 5:30 based on my schedule and my son's. His father has him part-time. So on those days, I can attend meetings by myself, but on my days I have to bring my son. I don't have anyone to leave him with, and babysitting wouldn't work because nobody wants to babysit. For just 1 hour it doesn't financially make sense for them. So, I take my son to meetings. Naturally, he isn't too thrilled when I have to. Before you suggest I could do Zoom meetings. I really don't get anything out of them. I like the in-person connection and atmosphere. My ex, who has never taken my alcoholism seriously and has never actually attended an AITA meeting, says I'm tough for exposing our child to that kind of atmosphere, and those kinds of people. The truth is, those people are what have saved my life. They are so sweet and good with my son, and while sometimes the subject matter can be a little adultish, we mostly talk about how to be better people and live a spiritually sound existence and to help our fellow man. I personally think it's good for my son to be surrounded by people that are trying to better themselves, and also to let him know at an early age the effects of alcoholism as it runs in my family. But maybe I'm and way off the mark and am doing more damage than good. I would just like outside opinions that aren't emotionally connected to the situation. AITA for taking my 7-year-old to AITA meetings with some of the topics that are addressed. Edit. I super appreciate everyone's responses. It gave me a lot of insight. Admittedly, I didn't really think about how other members may feel about having a child there. I was mostly thinking about the comfort of my son. I will say that the group is all old-timers that have years of sobriety and largely just talk about service work and how much better their lives are. But, as many have pointed out, the presence of a child may deter members from talking about serious subjects. So I'll either just give my kid headphones and a tablet to play with, something I usually hate doing, but I guess I'll just have to suck it up, or do Zoom meetings when I have him. Again, thank you for all of the input, even the PPL that were incredibly harsh with their verdict. Update. AITA for forcing my 7-year-old to go to AITA. Monday, April 10th, 2023. Update. First and most importantly, I'm still sober and feel better than I have in years. I can now be more present and a better mom to my child. And for that, I'm incredibly grateful. AITA has quite literally saved my life, and if anyone who is reading this struggles with addiction, I just want to say there is a way out. You just have to know you are worth it, and sobriety is worth it. My first post ended up being a mixed bag in terms of judgments about my assholery. I accept my judgment of being the AITA, but I did want to clarify a common misconception. Abstaining from alcohol is just a small portion of AITA. A much larger portion is dedicated to is looking into why we drink, take accountability for our selfish actions and apologize accordingly, and to rectify our character. defects so we can be better PPL to our friends and family. Because of these aspects, I was hoping exposing my son to the program would teach him something about accountability, patience, and empathy. I ended up just asking my home group if it bothered them that I brought my son to meetings. Not only did everyone look at me like I grew a second head for even asking for permission, every parent in the group talked about their own children growing up in and how you do what you have to do to stay sober. Essentially, the consensus was that it is far better for a kid to have to be dragged to meetings a few hours a week than to have a mom drunk all the time. I still take my son to meetings, but now I allow him to play on my tablet with headphones. I got reamed in the comments for not allowing my kid to do this before. Fair enough. I just have this thing about kids being on technology as a quick fix for boredom. But I need to get over that. My son gets a lot of treats and gifts from my home group members. One dude gives him $10s and $20s every time he sees my son. I know, right? Untapped resource. My son is learning how to play electric guitar, and two members will riff with my son and talk music. Jimi Hendrix is currently my son's hero. All in all, my son likes the attention and says he doesn't mind going to meetings. A surprising update in all of this is that my son's dad has stopped drinking, although he currently refuses to attend My relationship with my ex is much better and my kiddo seems much happier as a whole. Life for all of us is just better. And while I don't want to turn this into a public endorsement for I just want to say that sobriety is hands down the best thing that's ever happened to my family. I actually think it's really beneficial that a dedicated screen time can be during the meetings. When I was a kid, we did family therapy, but most of my memories of it were just playing with blocks. The simple act of having a good time in a therapy setting makes therapy and mental health feel important from a young age. Even if her son is playing on his tablet, he's getting positive experiences in close proximity to mental health support. I was like, you aren't letting him play Game Boy or do coloring books or bring his army men. What I'm really getting from these comments are the two very different experiences from kids who went to Not sure what to make of that. As an aside, I've always thought that children benefit from having a broad range of trusted adults in their life. My children have often attended classes, workshops, D&D sessions with my husband and I, and it's been wonderful for their ability to engage with all sorts of people. Better an meeting than a bar with a drunk parent. As a child, my mom dragged my sister and I to her meetings all the time and we hated it. There were these meetings at this one house that offered Al-Anon meetings for all of the kids in parallel to the adults meeting, which made it not as bad. I know she meant well and didn't have much of an option being a single mom. It just was not fun and made me feel like it was my problem to deal with when we just wanted to do normal kids stuff. I grew up going to with my mom and I honestly think I'm a better person for it. My brother and I were young, but we still retained some of the values. We weren't right in the meetings all the time. We played with other people's kids while the adults did their thing. Plus there was sometimes cake, which is awesome. Like said, you do what you gotta do to stay sober. This turned out well enough. She asked. Nobody really cared. He has a headphone and tablet to create an air of confidentiality and is picking up a group of trusted adults. I had a drunk parent and spent many nights at Al-Anon meetings growing up. Not but similar. And there were plenty of kids like me there. We all got acquainted and entertained ourselves, playing hide and seek, searching for quarters to buy Hawaiian punch from the vending machine. Plus, we weren't even allowed in the meetings themselves. We just hung out in the basement or parking lot of the church, community center, or wherever the meeting was at. Hell, I even went to a few funerals of fellow Al-Anon members whom I barely knew. But my Al-Anon parent knew intimately. It wasn't like a bad environment in the least. Besides, it was much better than the other part of my childhood that I spent entertaining myself in dive bars. Lol. If anything, it was the one place I felt comfortable, because I never had to lie. I was always having to lie about things my whole life, because most people didn't understand why my true answers were weird, and I wasn't old enough to explain it tactfully. So like most kids in my situation, I resorted to lying or avoiding giving an answer and hoping no one noticed. But the other kids at Al-Anon never asked innocent but loaded questions about your home life the way everyone else does, because they always had to lie. 2. It was low pressure. My ex, who has never taken my alcoholism seriously and has never actually attended an AA meeting, says I'm tough for exposing our child to that kind of atmosphere, and those kinds of people. And a surprising update in all of this is that my son's dad has stopped drinking. So those sorts of people are people who make him uncomfortable with his own issues with the bottle. This has to be repeated. Is not the only way to get sober. If you're not religiously inclined, it might not be for you. Talk to your doctor for help getting sober. I grew up going to AA meetings. Wouldn't trade it for the world. Some of my favorite memories of my mom are because of AA. Getting older and realizing how much AA meant to her, and how much being sober meant to her, just made it all the better. This situation sucks, but it's better for the kid to be there, playing on his tablet, than to have a drunk mom, or dead mom, or for him to eventually have to need AA meetings himself down the line. I grew up going to AA and NA meetings. Definitely had the prayer chant thing memorized by the age of 7. I even remember going to NA campouts and bonfires. I had a pretty dysfunctional childhood though, and I'm far from the model of healthy lol. I work in the social work field. One of my favorite rehab facilities I've ever visited allowed the children to stay with the mothers while they completed rehab. It was a village situation. They had a playroom, a playground, and everyone took turns babysitting and helping out. One of the most successful rehabs I've ever seen. Sorry, but what does "I know, right? Untapped resource" mean with regards to the man who gives the child money? I'm a bit concerned that she's letting some random dude just give her kid money. Has she never watched a true crime documentary? It works for a lot of people, but in my experience, NA are all about replacing one addiction for another. The culture is that people's lives will now revolve around attending these meetings. You're diseased. There is no cure, but we can mitigate the symptoms for you. Not exactly a recovery, but it is better than the alternative. My grandfather took me to AA meetings all the time. Man drank for 50 years and only stopped when he realized he couldn't take care of me while drunk. Taught me a lot about empathy. I will tell you that good people exist at every level of the social strata. Good for her on getting sober. My mom brought me to meetings as a kid. When my drinking became a problem as an adult, I knew where to go. AA is not the only way I maintain my sobriety, but it is where my recovery began. So I'm thankful for that.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epic Ericast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.